Now here we have a die-cast model where there has been paid special care and attention to get every single detail right and to truly deliver true value for your hard-earned money. No, I'm just kidding, it's a Herpa model, but thanks to the great prices of the F&B shop, I've been able to get my hands on it so we can take a closer look at it together. And with that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today will take a closer look at an Airbus A320NEO of British Airways. At the front of the box we have a cutout so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside, and on top of the box we have the British Airways branding. The back side of the box, well, I mean, it is the usual Herpa Wings box design, which is dreadful, but Herpa just don't care, and since we don't have anything else to say about this box design, let's just focus on the aircraft model inside. And here she is, the Airbus A320NEO of British Airways in the BA Better World livery. Certainly one of the most anticipated aircraft models from Herpa Wings this year, although I must admit that I was a very long time struggling whether I would like to get the model or not, mainly because of Herpa's insane official retail price of 35 euros. Of course, there are great shops like the F&B shop where you can get it much cheaper, but it is still not a cheap model. So is it really worth our money and time? Well, the best way to find out is simply by taking a closer look at it. And if we start off with the tail section, we can see on the vertical stabilizer we have the British Airways branding, of course modified to fit the color scheme of the livery. On top of the stabilizer we then find the last two letters of the registration code. The full registration code we can find on the fuselage, where we also have the aircraft type specification, the British Airways branding, and of course the slogan, our most important journey yet. More about that later in the video. Towards the very tail of the aircraft we then also have a bit of detailing around the APU exhaust. At the front of the aircraft and across the fuselage we then find the British Airways branding with the writing of BA Better World and the British Airways crest. We also have a One World logo, of which British Airways of course is a founding member, and we also find a few static ports across the fuselage. The cockpit section itself then consists of the cockpit windows and the window wipers. But overall I think this is actually looking pretty alright. It's definitely not the worst cockpit section we have seen from Herpa Wings. And I'm here particularly of course thinking about the shape of the nose, which Herpa is always very inconsistent with. A quick look at the engine nacelles reveals they have been kept in one of the many blue shades that we also find on the fuselage. And when it comes to printed details we find the silver leading edge has been added, as well as some safety relevant markings. After Herpa has improved the engine mount, which has solved the ground clearance issue, I think Herpa is doing pretty well when it comes to the physical detailing of the NEO engines, especially here also from the front where we very nicely can see the engine fan blades. On the fuselage, just above the wings, we then find the emergency exits have been printed on, which leads us straight to the wings, which we should also take a closer look at. Starting off at the top side, where we can see the different flaps, slats and spoilers have been carved out very nicely. We do also have some different shades of grey for additional detailing, and we find the markings for the emergency exit have been printed on as well. Also at the underside of the wings, we find some nice physical detailing, and here we also have the full registration code of the aircraft printed on, and I really like the red colored in tips of the pylons. And of course the wings of an A320NEO also have these massive winglets, which Herpa can be a bit inconsistent with, mainly in how they are bending them, so we do need to check that. On this side I think it's pretty alright. It's steep, but it's still alright, and on the other side I think that is pretty much perfect. Then we of course also have the landing gear, which is the standard landing gear that Herpa uses for all the Airbus A320 family aircraft models. The main landing gear looks fine. The front landing gear suffers from being way too wide, and of course is needing some printed details here, but that is unfortunately Herpa's standard these days. And then last but not least, we do also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on here at the back of the aircraft, and also here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A320NEO in the BA Better World delivery of Herpa Wings in scale 1 to 500, and what can we say about this aircraft model? Now I have to admit, on first glimpse the aircraft model does look great, although of course it does still suffer from the usual Herpa nonsense, like the massively too wide front landing gear or a hole in the fuselage, which I haven't even bothered showing you because at least this time it doesn't destroy any printed details, but of course with no stand delivered with the aircraft model, the hole is totally pointless. Now, I have in the past been very critical about Herpa when they get the colors of the livery wrong, and I would say there are some arguments also here that Herpa hasn't quite nailed the color scheme of the aircraft. But I'm not as mad about it this time, because there is a huge difference between Herpa messing up a standard livery that they have made countless of times, or maybe not getting the colors entirely 100% correctly on a special livery, which they have never done before. Now, when we look at the aircraft in real life, I would say the colors definitely tend to go more towards cyan and not as blue as the aircraft model comes along. But again, as I say, it is pretty close. Now, if that was the only issue, I would be a pretty happy collector. Unfortunately, however, it is not. No, Herpa has completely messed up the livery. When we look at the slogan, our most important journey yet, notice that it overlaps with the quite elaborate color scheme. When we look at the aircraft in real life, well, not so much. Yes, it does slightly. However, the stripes here are much brighter. So if we look at the aircraft in real life on the other side, maybe it's different here. Notice also here, there is a very bright stripe that is kind of overlapping with the writing. When we look at the aircraft model from Herpa Wings, well, that's quite different. So I don't know what kind of fantasy livery Herpa has been adding to this aircraft model, but it's clearly not the Be a Better World livery. And because once you've seen this mistake, it is so blatantly obvious you can never unsee it, I once again have to question Herpa's efficacy. Because how can you sell an aircraft model at 35 euros retail with such an obvious mistake? And it is truly a shame, because apart from the usual Herpa nonsense and this massive mistake, it is a nice looking aircraft model, but of course should never have been sold as such. Now, before we end today's video, I would like to thank the photographers who so very kindly donated their pictures so I could show you the issue with the livery. Thank you very much, it is much appreciated. And of course, with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed this video, then do feel free to leave a like, and of course, if you are new around here, you're always welcome to hit subscribe. With that, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.